Okay, Jesse, I'm just starting my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
1 second.
All right, now I can.
Yeah, please start.
All right. Thank you all for joining, and sorry for the initial hiccups from my end. And I just want to start by introducing myself. My name is Fayad Fahmi. I am DevSecOps engineer, solutions architect with AdFox, and we have been in the industry for the last 4 years, delivering customers with digital transformation and disruptive technologies. So, and we have helped multiple customers onboard in the fields of cloud, DevOps, and analytics. And some of the interesting customers are, as you can see, Dubai Ports, Expo, and I've been a sysadmin. I come from a sysadmin background. I come from a systems engineer sysadmin background, and I've been with uh, customers who have been onboarded to cloud from on-prem data centers. And I've worked with Flyby
Fine, I'll
previously.
also introduce myself. So before you start off, okay, this is Vijay here, the lead architect from the AdFox perspective. We've been into the cloud for 4 years now. So we both work together in terms of the multi-cloud opportunities, in terms of Microsoft, AWS, and things and all. So today, Fayed will be delivering on the AWS Workspaces, and first to introduce our ad folks in terms of the what we do, what are we, and what is the company, and what kind of customers we do work on all these things. Yeah, Fayed, go to you.
All right. So in the So we have been focusing on the four major pillars, by the way, which is, can you go ahead, Vijay? Which is cloud ops, modern infrastructure, cybersecurity, and data engineering. So now, without further ado, I don't want to spend much time into because I won't take you guys deep into workspaces straight away. So let's go ahead and start exploring what Amazon Workspace is offering for us. Now, by the end of the talk, you will have knowledge in workspaces to make some informed decisions based on your personal or your organization's need. And we will be touch basing workspaces, going through an overview and some of the important terminologies in workspaces, and later to the high level architecture of workspaces, security. Then we will take you through a short demo of the test environment. Now, later on, some of the recommendations based on the best practices that we have around workspaces. Now, I believe we have a chat option in this window, which you could make use of as we go along the presentation to ask questions if you have any. In case if you cannot find the chat window, you can note down your questions, and at the end we can have a discussion based on your queries. Now, I see there is a Q&A tab there.
Yes. True.
Yes. Yeah, so you could probably make use of it. And I would suggest sharing your questions as you go along so that Vijay, as you share the questions, Vijay would be able to address it straight away. Now, Amazon Workspaces is, as everybody knows, or some of you might know, it is a desktop as a service offering from Amazon. Now, it was launched in 2014. The preview for the service was available much earlier than that, but it was first launched in 2014, and Workspaces has been in the service for considerably long time, and the service has been stable. So workspaces are basically virtual and isolated environments in the cloud. So imagine you work your day-to-day task on your laptops, and sometimes even on you sometimes you may have to use jump servers also. But imagine workspaces with a traditional desktop environment, and it replaces the need for traditional desktops by providing you the operating system, compute, storage, underlying layers, whichever is required to power up your desktop environment. And this desktop environment is virtual and isolated, and it resides in the cloud according to your need. Now, how do the users connect to these remote desktops? They make use of the clients that are available, and they can literally connect from different locations as they prefer. And Amazon Workspaces supports most of the platforms where users can make use of their client programs, like Windows, Mac. Even in Linux, it has a client available for Ubuntu Bionic release, and along with that, browser is also available. Now, there is an interesting term around desktop as a service, which means that, which basically means that VDI is someone, desktop service is basically a VDI that's someone else's problem, right? So that basically is trying to explain the fact that your desktop as a service is hosted in the cloud, and the heavy lifting is done by someone else, so that you can start using your desktop without having to configure, without having to go through on-prem racks, virtualized environments, hardware setups. So Amazon does the heavy lifting for you, so that you can have this seamless experience of running a desktop and cloud. Now, basically, it eliminates the complexity of setting up infrastructure. You don't have to manage so many applications from your side. Applications are available on demand. And you can also leverage the security best practices that is offered by Amazon, so that your environment stays secure in the cloud. Now, there is an interesting use case around desktops in cloud. During around January, if I'm right, the license for Windows 7 was expired, and I mean, like end of life cycle. I mean, the end of life cycle was expired, and a lot of organizations had challenges moving their workloads to Windows 7, Windows 10. And at this time, this is when the desktop as a service was very useful for many of the organizations to move their machines from Windows 7 to Windows 10. So it is estimated that 50% of the business was affected, and desktop as a service was an advantage in this case. So this was a great use case when it comes to desktop as a service. Vijay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
sorry. In
there
between.
is one there's one important question that might come up, that there are different workspaces offering in the market now, but why would you like to go ahead with Amazon Workspaces compared to the other environments? It basically sums up to the user experience. How Amazon Workspaces simplifies the entire setup, and it ensures that the users don't have to go through expensive hardware uh, and complex software setups, and you can literally access anywhere with support for multiple clients. And it also allows you to pay as you go, so that if you use in hourly basis or on monthly basis, you can pay as much of you have consumed, and you don't have to make any upfront payment. Now, it also allows you to bring your own license as you require. Now, some of the Windows releases supports bringing your own license. So if you have your organization or yourself have some license that you want to use, you can bring it to cloud and start using it with Workspaces. So it all sums up to the main section, the main important point where workspaces from Amazon has an advantage over any other workspace offering. It comes up to simplicity and ease that is offered to the customer. Now, the platforms that are available in Amazon Workspaces is also unique, and it makes Workspaces offering stand out in this section of desktop as a service. So it's basically you get the offering to choose Windows and Linux, and even the freedom to have Ubuntu desktop and cloud, which is very rarely found in desktop as a service to host your own Linux desktop in the cloud. So Amazon even gives you the freedom to have Ubuntu desktop along with Amazon Linux too, which is Amazon's own distribution. Vijay? Yeah. So customizable option that is available in Workspaces is something very critical and important, which basically gives you uh, freedom to define your workspace size according to your need. So if you are a beginner level user, you can define your workspace size accordingly. So your operating system can also be chosen. You can select certain applications and bundle it into your workspace so that the workspace is bundled with applications that you choose or your organization needs. So this also helps to create a golden image out of the workspace image. So this is particularly useful when you have your organization has certain groups or units that require certain type of workspace where you can customize the uh, workspace image and make it into a bundle. So the image basically consists of following layers. They are operating system, softwares, and settings of the workspace. Now, when it comes to bundling the image, it is basically the custom image that you have created along with the underlying hardware. So if you want to take out the workspace, you basically do a custom bundle and then take it out to a different region, or you spin it up within your organization. Now, there are certain important concepts that comes into place with respect to workspace. Now, workspaces, uh, have certain terminologies that you have to be familiar with when you go ahead with building the infrastructure within workspace. So, most importantly, it is directory. So, directory is actually the authentication server that you will use for authenticating your workspace. So it basically allows you to authenticate with the infrastructure that you have set up, with the environment that you have set up in cloud. So if your client is trying to authenticate to your if the client is trying to authenticate to workspace, it would first connect to a directory server where it would fetch the user information and it tries to log in. Now there are different types of directory services that is offered by Amazon. One is the managed Microsoft AD, which is an AD service that is offered by AWS. So if you want to use Microsoft's Active Directory for AD-aware workloads, you can make use of the first type of directory server, which is the AWS Managed Microsoft AD. Second comes the simple AD, which is a Samba Active Directory compatible server, which basically supports Linux and Windows. Now, if you want to have an easy connectivity with your existing Microsoft AD with the Microsoft AD support, you can start using simple AD, but you have to be aware that advanced enterprise features in AWS services in AWS are not supported under simple AD. So which comes to the third type of AD connector. Third type of directory server, which is the AD connector. Now, AD connector gives you the freedom to choose your existing Active Directory server, if it is sitting in on-prem or if it is sitting in cloud. Now, if it is in cloud, you can spin it up within the same VPC, or if it exists in different VPC, you can connect to it with VPC peering. So your workspace basically connects to your existing AD that is sitting in on-prem or in the cloud. If it comes to on-prem, you use the VPN connectivity or the direct connect services that is available. Now, you have to be aware of service account in Workspace, which is the admin level service account that the Workspace uses for connecting to the Workspace endpoints in AWS Cloud. So for connecting to your AD server in your infrastructure. So the service account is shared by the AD admin, where you will make use of the service account to configure your workspace Active Directory connector. So the Active Directory connector will configure the service account to connect to the workspace, to connect to the AD server. So the each workspace has a unique ID, which is used to distinguish the workspace environment. So that comes under the workspace ID. So any workspace environment that you set up will have a unique workspace ID. Now, application managers are available from the console, which allows you to select the application. Now, along with workspace clients, which are basically clients that you can use to connect to the workspace environments. Now, user accounts are required for each user to connect to the environment. This is the high-level architecture of workspaces, where the users connect to the workspace endpoints that resides in AWS Cloud. The users will make use of HTTPS connection. They will connect over 443 for authentication and authorization on the endpoint that is available in AWS Cloud. So the architecture, if you watch closely, the architecture has AWS Managed VPC and Customer Managed VPC. Under AWS Managed VPC, you can see that the public endpoints related to Workspace will be residing under it, where you have the authentication gateway and the streaming gateway. And if your architecture is built to use Microsoft AD service that is available from Amazon end, it would make use of a second managed VPC, which is exclusively for Microsoft AD service. Now, connections from the auth server to the AD service is only for authentication, and a second customer managed VPC is where you spin up your workspaces. Now, this customer managed VPC is designed in such a way that you will configure certain subnets, basically subnet groups, where you will use the subnet groups to create the workspaces. Now, to understand it from an overview, you have customer managed VPC and Amazon managed VPC. And anything that comes under the customer managed VPC is your responsibility to set up and to secure. So let's go ahead with the next section, which is the security offering that comes under Workspaces. Now, Amazon follows a shared responsibility model for security, which basically means that the responsibility for security falls under both AWS and users. For the security that comes off the cloud is under AWS, but whatever services that you use is your responsibility. So securing Workspace is also your responsibility, and using the Workspaces configurations that are available with respect to security. Basically, data at rest and transit can be encrypted, which is at rest you can encrypt your volumes and the data that resides in the volume. So if it's a Windows system, you basically have C and D drive, which is configured as the primary volume and the secondary volume. So by making use of Amazon key management service and with customer management keys, managed keys, you can encrypt the data that is residing in your volumes. And with Transit, Amazon offers you TLS 1.2 encryption that is available for the data that is in transit, and if for even for any UDP connection that comes into the workspace endpoint using the AES encryption. So it is also recommended to use multi-factor authentication. You should make use of the monitoring capabilities of workspaces that is configured using CloudTrail and CloudWatch. Any API call and user activity will be logged under CloudTrail that can be configured to secure your workspace. Now, any end user who uses a particular client can be authorized and verified by using certificates. So if your organization has a certificate, you can make use of validating these clients and ensuring that these clients are trusted by making use of these certificates. So the certificates can be uploaded into the workspace configuration, where each certificate can be set up as a root certificate, and any client that connects to these endpoints will authenticate against this, will be verified against this certificate. So it also allows you to have a trust-based network using certificates. Now, each workspace has security groups, where if you want to restrict the traffic, you can go ahead, configure the security groups, and start using workspaces. By default, it doesn't spin up any security group. So this is one of the design principles of the workspace. So if you want a security group to be attached to the workspace, you'll have to create a security group and attach to it after spinning it up. Now, you can also have client-side antivirus and security solutions on your end-to-end protection on your client client work machines that you use to connect to these desktop environments. Now, the AD server that you use for connecting to the workspace can also enforce group policies, which is useful for enforcing group policy based on the users. And that feature is that feature depends upon the AD service that you use. If it's on-prem AD, you can define your group policy, and you can enforce the group policy on the users. Now, system updates on the desktops is something very important that you have to ensure. By default, Amazon follows the maintenance window, where it brings down the workspace for system updates. That is available to be scheduled. If you want to manually schedule the system updates, you can configure it and schedule the system updates during off-peak times. So maintenance windows is the concept that comes under updates, OS updates and patches, which is related to what we discussed now. So if you want to configure the maintenance window for patching your desktops, you can configure it under the workspace settings. There is a feature to rebuild and restore the workspace. This is something important for rollbacks. So if you want to roll back your workspace to a previous state, that is possible using the rebuild and restore feature that is available under workspace. Now, if you have your own update server, it is also possible to configure the update server so that your patches can be pulled from your WCS server or a systems management server that you have. Now, monitoring the workspaces is something Amazon provides you by default because of the integration that Workspace has with CloudWatch. So any users any sysadmins who want to start analyzing the performance metrics of the workspaces, they can go to CloudWatch and look at the metrics offered by CloudWatch, where you can get information like user connection status, workspace health status. Detailed metrics is available under the documentation, which you can go through and see what are the metrics that are available. So upon successful login, certain informations are logged into CloudWatch events. So that is also possible to be viewed and investigated under CloudWatch events. For example, a user successfully logs into a workspace and what is the client that particular user has used, was the login successful? All these information can be pulled out from CloudWatch events. Now, CloudTrail can also be used with the with Workspace. So any API call that is into that comes into the Workspace infrastructure is logged under the CloudTrail. So any console calls, any calls related to the Workspace setup, all this information is stored under CloudTrail. Now, we will take you through a short demonstration of Workspace from our account, and we have followed the recommended architecture for this demonstration. So we'll show you from the console how Workspace is created, how to create a directory server, and how to start using a Workspace after the provisioning. So the architecture is basically, I can explain the architecture that we have followed here. This is the recommended architecture as per the AWS documentation. So this is the customer VPC that we have to create for the setup, where you have multiple private subnets. You will have basically two private subnets. So workspaces are actually created in subnet groups. For that reason, you will create two private subnets. And since you create the workspace in a private subnet, that by itself follows certain security principle. Now you have a second public subnet, which is used to create the NAT gateway and for the internet gateway. Now this will ensure that your workspace, if it requires internet connectivity, it will make use of the third public subnet. This is also something very important, because you have the freedom to create a public subnet straight away and create your workspace inside, and then start using the workspace with an internet gateway without going with private subnets. But this follows a secure and recommended architecture as per Amazon. Now, the AD connector that we will be using will be the directory type that we will be using will be AD connector, which will connect to the existing AD that is residing in our VPC. Now we have a service account for this purpose and an end user account and password to connect along with the Workspace client. So let's go ahead with the setup, and I will. Vijay,
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, Vijay. So let's log into the console at this point, and we'll show them how the whole configuration is done.
Add folks console. 1 second. Once again, let me stop the screen share for a second. I'm just stopping the screen share. Just logging into.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, we can see a screen.
Okay.
Vijay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So we'll start creating the directory here. So set up the directory. And we'll be following the third method here, which is the AD connector, as we have mentioned in the architecture. Now, this is the directory size that basically defines how your directory size should be. And this depends upon the number of users that will connect to the AD server. So this is a short description that you can give for the AD connector. And we have a VPC that we have created for Workspace. We'll make use of the VPC. And under the subnet, we will select the two private subnet that we have created, Workspace Private Subnet 1 and Workspace Private Subnet 2. Now, this is the organization name that you will give for the particular AD. So you can give it as AdFox test AD, yeah, AdFox test AD. The DNS name would be testlocal1.com. This is the DNS name of the AD service server that we have configured. Now, under the DNS IP address, we have to configure, we have to set up the IP address. This should be resolvable from the VPC that we are creating the workspaces on. Now, this is the service account that we will use for connecting, which is one of the, with the admin privilege that the sysadmin has created for us. So this is from the AD side that we have arjun.admin, yeah. Arjun.admin. Yeah, you can give the password. It's adfolks@1234 with capital A. adfolks@1234. The A has to be capital.
Yeah.
Now we go ahead.
1 second.
Just ensure the password is correct because this is something important. Now, if you have a review and create screen where you have a summary of all the configuration that you have done, you can go ahead, create this directory. Now, the directory, after it is created, it will take at least 5 to 10 minutes for the status to change to active. So by this time, we'll go ahead use one of the directory server that we have created in our setup. You can use the AD that is under the AD that is below that.
Okay, this one.
The fourth one, yeah, on the fourth one. And
Okay.
so this is the section where you have to configure the AD. Now we have to go ahead and create the workspaces. So that is under the workspaces section. So you can launch the workspace. So if your AD was successfully connected, you will make use of you will make use of the AD that is connected, and if you do a refresh of list, you can see all the users that is connected. So you can make your you can use test 11. Yeah, add the selected.
Yeah, added. Next.
Yeah, and then you can go with the next step, where you have to select the bundle, which is basically the operating system,
The varieties of it.
along with the CPU and the memory that you require. So we'll select the first one, which has the free tier eligible. So we'll go ahead. And this is where you have the option to select auto start, or should it be kept always on. So we keep auto stop option enabled. And encryption option is available under this section, where if you have a customer managed key, you can choose the key to encrypt your root and user volumes. So we'll leave the encryption unchecked. The tags, this is the section where you can use tags. And then you go ahead and create the workspace. Launch the workspace, yeah. So now you can see that your workspace is under pending status. Now this is being created in the background. Now workspaces usually take around 15 minutes to spin up. So by the time this workspace comes up, we will go ahead and connect to one of the workspace that we have already created now. Vijay, if you click the test33 workspace, and you can see the client link there. This is where you will download the clients.
We have the variety of clients for multiple OSs. So I use a Mac, so I'll download a Mac. Okay, now should I search for?
If you search, workspace, workspace, yes.
Okay, I need to go back to
now we need to go back to the console, and there is a registration code under the workspace details, which you copy and paste it on the workspace ID. This is basically the workspace identifier that is provided by Amazon, so that when you make a client connection, the endpoint authenticates, identifies the workspace identifier, and it connects to the particular workspace environment. You go ahead and register your workspace with the workspace client with the workspace endpoints. That's not related, Vijay. Yeah. So this is the screen where you have to give your username and password. Now you will reach this screen only if your registration was successful. So which basically means that in the earlier screen, your registration with the endpoint was successful. Now you'll use test33 here, and then the password is user at 1234, caps user. U capital letter, user at 1234.
Yeah, you're connected to the desktop.
Yeah, this is the workspace desktop environment that we just provisioned, and our connection was successful to the workspace, and internet connectivity seems to be fine. We can verify it from the using the browser. Now we have not noticed much latency, or you can say that any latency at all, because even this workspace being a basic configuration, we were able to you can take Firefox here from the desktop, Vijay, and try google.com. If the internet connectivity is successful, we should be able to reach out to internet. Now, how this connects to internet is using the public gateway that we have already provisioned, where we have set up the NAT gateway and the internet gateway for this purpose. So now this is a basic workspace setup that we did here, which is actually under the free tier. Now the underlying hardware is actually very minimal. So if you are a power user, if you are a programmer, developer, or if you're a sysadmin, or if you are even a graphics developer, if you need high-end graphics user, web developer, you can go ahead with a bundle that is specific for graphics designers, which will give you additional compute power. Now, let's go back to the console, and there is one important section. Now, by this time, if you refresh, you can probably see, yeah, our workspace that we just created a while ago, it is active now. Now, if you go back to directory, and our directory server is also active now. The directory server that we just configured earlier, it is active now. Now, if you Vijay, select one of the directory that
yeah, I've selected one of the directory. The first one,
we just used.
Yeah, the one created now.
Yeah, the fourth one, AdFox demo.
Yeah, so just say register.
No, not required. Just select select the directory server that we have configured here, the fourth registry under the list, AdFox demo, which is the directory server that we use.
Okay.
Under this, if you select update details, you can find certain information specific for the directory server, which you can update, which is most importantly being the organization OU information, which is the OU information that is shared by the Active Directory server admin. If you want to update it under the workspace, you can go ahead and do it under domain and organization unit. Now, security group, this is where you add the security groups for the workspace. And yeah, this is where you add the workspace security group. So if you select the security group and then assign, that would get assigned. Now, access to internet is one section which basically gives you the option to enable and disable internet access according to your needs. So if you go on using for a while and if you don't need internet access on that machine, so this option basically gives you a toggle switch off, switch on for the internet. Now, along with that, you have maintenance mode settings. Now, if your AD connector information is updated, that can be updated under the AD connector, which is basically the service account. Now, if you want to configure the multi-factor authentication, this is the section where you configure your MFA server, and you start using MFA with this. Now, that brings us to the overview and setup, the walkthrough through the demo environment. I believe this should give you a understanding of how to start using Workspace. Now, the users are welcome to start using Workspace because Amazon provides a free tier so that everybody can start using out of the box and without having to worry about will this solution work for you or not. You can start making use of the free tier. Now, Vijay, let's go back to the slide.
Okay. Yeah.
Now we can go to the, there is a troubleshooting section which we have noted down some of the troubleshooting scenarios that you can come up with. For example, at times your end workspace client might face connectivity issues to the workspace environment. Now, this is usually when the workspace goes to a standby status. As we have discussed earlier, when the workspace is not in use, Amazon puts the workspace into a standby mode. This is configured from the auto stop setting that we have configured for the workspace. Now, when the workspace is under a standby mode, usually the workspace will show as stopped, and your client will not be able to connect to it. So the sysadmins will basically have to switch on the workspace and start the workspace again, so that the clients can come back connecting. So when you face an internet connectivity on the workspace, it is usually because of your NAT gateway and internet gateway connectivity with the public subnet. So you can go ahead and check the internet gateway and NAT gateway settings. If your private gateway has the route table updated with the NAT gateway, and if your public subnet also has the internet gateway available, all this information should be checked and verified in case your internet connection breaks in Workspace. Now, directory server sometimes at times shows inactive, which is the AD server connectivity. Now, this is usually because your AD server, if it is unreachable, your directory server under the directory server list will show as inactive. Now, for this part, you have to ensure that network connectivity between the directory server and the AD server is intact and functioning, and you don't have any packet loss. If in case you're connecting from an on-prem AD to your directory server, you have to ensure your connectivity between these environments is correct. And once the AD server is available for the directory server, it should be available as active. During this time, the client will face the same unable to connect information. Now, to debug all these details, CloudTrail and CloudWatch logs will be very useful for you. Now, the next section is basically the recommendations that we have for you under with our experience around workspaces. Now, always deploy your workspace under private subnet. This is the recommended architecture, and this will also ensure that your workspace is residing in an isolated, customer-managed VPC, which follows the best standards. Now, tag the workspaces is one other important thing you can do. Advantage being, it helps you to it helps during the billing, and it helps during the resource organization. If you want to organize your workspaces based on your organization unit, you can make use of the tags. Now, updating the OU settings under workspace is something you can make use of, which will enforce the group policy settings into the workspace. And now the trusted clients based on client certificates, which will enhance the authenticity of your client programs using the trust-based network with SSL certificates. Now, MFA can be used. That will also enhance the security. Now, security groups, even though by default Workspaces does not use a security group, it is always recommended to use a security group for fine control on the network traffic. Now, the client programs has a feature which enables advanced logging. Now, if your client, Workspace client, has advanced logging enabled, in case of any connectivity issue, you will get detailed information from CloudTrail. So that will be very useful for you. So these are the recommendations that comes to our mind when we have done our environment and when we have set up our environment in Workspaces in Amazon Cloud. So this could be useful for the community. Vijay, let's that does the recommendation sections. Yeah. Now, regions that are available following are the regions. Now, Amazon Workspace is not available on all regions, but most of the popular regions are available. And now the pricing is also something very interesting because Amazon allows the facility to pay as you go, and you have different categories to choose from: free tier, standard, performance, power, and graphics, according to the CPU and the compute and memory and the storage requirements that you have. All of these tiers follow the monthly or the daily, the hourly billing. Now, there is a separate cost optimizer for workspaces, which users can make use of. So that will help you to estimate your workspace pricing upfront and plan accordingly when you set up your workspace. That's it. Now we can.
Thank you. I think
Once again, thanks for bearing with us in between the network connectivity issue at my end, and and thank you all for joining. And hope you have a safe and happy weekend.
Thank you. Happy weekend.